Hey, Jamie, why don't you? There's a lot going on. I knew you were coming on today, so I kind of made some maybe unexpected kind of comments or questions here from something that might be a little interesting in your department. Why don't you start us off with um, what might be going on with the fire department? Y'all have gotten some approvals from the city commission to move forward to deal with your staffing. And then one question that that all of us are probably interested, an update on construction and staffing of our new fire department by Green Hill High School.
Yes. There was a issue came up during the budget approval process about, of course, my budget is sole source funded from property tax, but yet I'm still a part of the city government. And with the tornado, the wind events, the COVID event, we were all being asked to submit a budget reflective of that because of the unknowns of how that was going to affect sales tax revenue, which, as you know, is the lifeblood of the city, as well as some potentials for property tax, all the way down to intricacies where there may be some the need for moving money around. It's been known for the past 7 years that we have operated as a department. We've operated at a deficit. We've never gone over budget, but we have from the sales tax that was passed in property tax that was passed in 2010 up until the time we started writing checks in 2013. We were it's kind of like our freshman year in college. We were, writing checks and everything was good because we had money in savings. And so that's what we've been doing. Well, this is now about, my second junior year, and I've run out of savings accounts. Still got plenty of checks, but I'm running out of savings. So we were going to, the decision was out there to either move my department and its budget into general fund, or to utilize my property tax money first and then supplement from the general fund. Either way, that general fund assistance was going to be affected because of the pandemic and the tornado and some other things that have been going on in the city. So I decided to submit a budget as well that was reflective of all the other budgets, taking into consideration the adverse effects that we've had from external events. And the only thing that I had asked for was an assistant chief. With the third station coming on and with an additional 15 people, that would take us to a full career staff of 36. And if you've studied anything pertaining to the National Incident Management System, or basically anything, the span of control is usually about 5 to 7 people. And at this particular point, it was going to get to where I needed to stay within the confines of the span of control so that our product out on the street was the best that it could be for the citizens. And that was what we had in the budget. It's also the first year that we have submitted a budget showing a surplus. So it was the cuts that I made and the adjustments that I made were very significant in the fact that my budget fell in line with the other budgets of Public Works, Parks, Administration, and who am I forgetting, Jess? Oh, the police. Yeah. So that was where we are now. The subject matter in particular about the hiring of an assistant chief came from District 4 Commissioner Malele. She had a question about hiring inside versus outside, and her intentions were to make it a kind of an encouragement factor for internal candidates. And it was, the intention was certainly there well, but we incorporated in 1972. It's going to be hard pressed to break new ground on things, and certainly something that is that has been utilized as much as hiring and filling positions. So the two commissioners really took to the idea of hiring from within. The issue that came up was that now the qualifications for an assistant fire chief, as as viewed by the Tennessee Firefighting Commission, by Tennessee Fire and Codes Academy, and by MTask, is there are qualifications that exist now that didn't exist 7 years ago, and certainly not when I was interviewed. And I'll get to that in just a minute. But the long and the short of it was, we've been in business for about 7 years, and it takes a while to get to the highest ranking recognizable level of fire officer, which is Fire Officer 4. I've got that, and 72 other people in the state of Tennessee have it, but there's only 73 in 95 counties. So it was something that that's been, if you look at MTask or Murfreesboro or Hendersonville, any of these surrounding city municipalities that we consider sister cities, or things that we follow, or city municipalities that we follow order in, or follow suit in, you'll see that they all have a common denominator in there of their qualifications for assistant fire officer. And I just created a job description that fell right in there. It's a little less stringent than MTask. It's a little more stringent than, say, Sumner County, but it's right in line. You could put City of Mount Juliet in with that and see that it blends and fits right in there easily. So that's where we've been at. And the Commissioner Mullally, who initially, after consults with me and her, the city manager, administrators, and whatnot, she has since backed off on that ordinance to rescind it. And it had gone for a first vote last, June 22nd, and comes up for a second vote tonight for that to be rescinded, and it would allow for me to go outside of the department to hire for the assistant chief's position. That's the short answer.
Well, if this was Coleman and Walker, this would be a good time to take a commercial break and make some revenue for the sponsor. But in the absence of not being able to figure out how to make money off of these yet, as we look to the next 12 months, expected revenues, the costs of the new building on on Lebanon Road, the way things are progressing, the obstacles you have to overcome, the revenue coming in, best case, worst case, when will the building be open with a flag out front and a big red pretty truck inside?
Well, I've got the flag and I've got the truck. I've got some detailed that we've been working on for the floor plan right now that has just come in while I was on vacation. This time last week, I wasn't me. I was some guy laying on the beach in Panama City doing my thing. But yeah, I told James I went down as white bread. I came back as wheat. Sharon said it was pumpernickel because it's like bread with age spots. She does not give me much credit for much.
With
but
the
I've
sunburn,
got some
sunburn, let's just go with cranberry.
Oh, okay. Hey, that'll work. But I've got some detailed floor plans that we've been working on. At the same time, HFR Design out of Brentwood has been working on the MPE plan sets for that during this time. They've been able to work from home and just keep it right in line. They haven't missed a beat on it. I meet up with them regularly about twice a week, and we talk about, which door needs to go where, this, that, and the other. But as soon as we get this, I've got these floor plans in front of the membership right now because I wanted everybody to have a contribution. So I send the big plans down to the stations, to the officers, and tell them to red pin the daylights out of it. I want everybody to be able to walk in and say, I did that door, or I had something to say about this hallway, or that, whatever. I wanted every member of the department to contribute in some way, or at least have the opportunity to have their voices heard on this project, because this is going to be part of their legacy too. I'm praying that it's not the Luffman Memorial Fire Station. I did get a lot of positive feedback from the Ray Justice Memorial Fire Station, but I'll leave that one for Ray to address. But no, it's as soon as we get this, Mark, we're going to submit that back to HFR, and we can start looking at a target date for putting the silver shovels in the ground and making an event out of it. Now, that being said, what we're also looking at is to see back on January the 1st, all of the department heads had also signaled that we would like to review the budget process after the first of the year, just to see if we've see where we're at as a community, as well as a region and a nation, for that matter, for where we are with the COVID pandemic, and where we are as far as being able to get our sales tax and other numbers back up.
With having the plans in the process, having an idea on your funding, back to my question, when is it possible to have a building with a fire truck in it in the next 12 to 18 months? Or are we looking longer than that?
Oh, no. I think that's probably good. Jessica was, she was part of the initial assessment process group that looked at it, and I would, defer to her. We had talked about that in the past. A lot of, like I said, there's a lot of variables involved, but once we get this put back in, the money and the financing for the station is set aside. So that's not going to be the funding for the station unless something very drastic happens. It will not be affected by anything that's going on right now. But Jess, I mean, wouldn't you think once we get that ceremony behind us, wouldn't it be within 12, 13 months with good weather?
With good weather. You do have a good pad to start with. Your site cost is going to be significantly less because of the work that was done by the high school contractor as part of your negotiation. So that's going to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was instrumental. We met with the developer up there, contractor for the high school, and there was kind of a need for him to be able to place his spoils, which was the dirt that was dug up from what I'm calling Benton Douglas Annex. But I'm sure it's going to get a different name. It's actually the road right there in front of the high school, the road that will be in front of the new fire hall. And so he was able to put those spoils there on that property that we purchased, and all of the engineering up to, I guess, to pad ready, if I'm not mistaken, Jess, all of that was done at a great savings. I'm not sure. I still see $250,000, but it may be give or take some change, but I believe we were able to save that amount of money by working with the contractor there.
It was significant. They already had third-party inspectors monitoring the compaction of the roadway construction, so they were able to do that to make sure that all the fill you got was usable and not just trash that would have to be dug out and disposed of later.
All I can tell you is it's the flattest 2 acres in Wilson County, bar none.
That probably helped you out saving some money. Certainly, I'm assuming you're talking about grade A. It certainly helped grade A with, and really the city of Mount Juliet, when you start keeping multi-ton dump trucks with gravel driving up and down our roads, when they could run right across literally across the gravel drive and
yes, it was actually, we met with Brother Rob Porter, and so he was instrumental in that, in bringing that to Jessica and I in a meeting.
They incorporated that in their plan. Civil Site did. The notation that we asked for on behalf of Jamie, Joe Haddocks, and Rob Porter, they made sure that made it through the plan that got approved by the city.
I'm glad. I know everybody will be anxious to see that coming out of the ground. Share with us, if you would, as we look only a few weeks away from hopefully getting the keys to the new high school. It's probably 400,000 plus or minus feet, and I'm assuming every drop of it has to be sprinkled, safety. You got, everything from door closures, inspecting a school. Give us kind of just a quick behind the scenes, what all has, and what you've been able to do during the construction, and what remains that might interest the people on this call before they get the keys to the building and say it's safe.
Well, obviously, we looked at the plans prior to, and then part of the plans that concerns this department is the fire suppression system and life safety plans, and those things were checked off many, many months ago. Since then, we have tested the fire water system, the fire suppression system. We're set now for a life safety inspection when they do. Now, I work hand in hand with the state fire marshal's office. They actually have jurisdictional control over educational buildings. Yes, it's in Wilson County, and yes, it's in the city of Mount Juliet, and yes, in the event of an emergency, it's going to be our fire department, the city's fire department, that responds to that. So we're definitely held in close proximity with any and all inspections that go through. But I meet up with the state fire marshal, and we do our inspection simultaneous. So on that day, I've got one other fire inspector. The highest level that you can hold in the state of Tennessee is Fire Inspector 2, and myself and Captain Brent Blaymeyers are Fire Inspector 2s. We'll be operating with the state fire marshal. We'll also bring in our crews, our own duty crews that day, because it's going to be, like you said, hundreds of square feet to be when we set off the alarm. I've got to go and check every occupant notification device, every horn, every strobe. We've got to look and make sure that every emergency door activates proper. We've got to be able to do access, egress, emergency lights, everything that goes into a period, or, you know, if there was a fire or weather related emergency to that structure, we would go in and test that.
Pretty interesting and monumental undertaking, actually. So
It's going to be an all day. Yeah, come early, stay late. It's going to be an all day event.
when we were introduced to the plans for the new Amazon facility, which is 350 or 3.5 to 4 million square feet, literally right down the street from the chamber. One of the things that was really significant and interesting, and I believe you and a team might have went to out of state to see firsthand. Will you share with everybody just quickly what you can about the sophisticated technology being used in the Amazon building for fire suppression?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And Jessica was with us at the time. It was me and Jessica, Mark Kirk. We traveled to Oklahoma City, where that was the latest Amazon facility being placed online. And it was just a mere 3 million square foot. It was a bitty old thing. It's going to pale in comparison to what we got. But no, the technology was, I mean, it literally took me back to being a boy and, you know, seeing things for the first time, not radio and television, Jessica, but other things in my time. It was very, very, the technology that exists there, the way that those packages, they were doing dry runs and everything, and the way that they were able to sort these packages, the way the conveyor ran, just that alone. I mean, that's obviously the meat and potatoes of the operations. Once you get it, on that conveyor, that's where it does it either gets it right or it doesn't. And this thing was getting it right. And the way that it was getting it right was just fascinating. And we're standing there and we're in awe of this technology. And the guy that's there with us, that was a part of the trip, was telling us, oh yeah, this technology is outdated. Nobody's ever seen it before. And he said, oh yeah, by the time your Amazon gets online, your technology will be 2 years behind. And I'm like, how fast is the technology for logistics traveling? I mean, it literally is at the speed of sound moving, or is at the speed of light moving that way. Our brand new facility, when we get up there and we cut the yellow ribbon, in the back of my mind, I'm going to be sitting like, we're 2 years too late on this technology. But it's going to be advanced above that. It's going to be exactly where it needs to be in the logistics craft to make Amazon very successful out here for some time.
What about their in-house fire suppression?
They did a design-based system. It was, and Jesse, you help me out on this. I can't remember what Phil Friday told us, but there were a couple of ways to do the fire suppression system for this building. One of them was to encase all of the structure steel in either sheetrock or concrete. The other method was to use an intermissent paint, which is a fire retardant paint, on the structured steel. And I asked, how much was it going to cost to do these things? And it was in the range of $10 million to do $3.6 million worth of structured steel, to do it in the traditional method or the conventional method that we would normally do. And so their fire science engineer contacted me and asked me to review a performance-based fire suppression system, which is basically, it is a sprinkler system 2.0, or sprinkler system on steroids for this facility. And they went to Underwriters Laboratory, UL in Chicago. If some of you are familiar, Underwriters has got this great big huge warehouse where they will build to scale whatever it is you want to test. If you've got the money, they've got the space and the time. And so they built to scale what was going to be there on the floor in Amazon within the confines of the racks and everything. They put in this performance-based sprinkler system and tested it numerous times. I want to say they did close to 24 different types of burning tests. They filled it full of plastic and styrofoam. So the bins were full of plastic and styrofoam, which would burn easily and burn black. So it would be very easy to see. And I saw the videotape, the testing and everything, all the data that came back. Mark Kirk, Andy Barlow, and myself reviewed and crunched all of the numbers. They were very sound in what they had done. And it was actually, once they got to seeing that the performance-based design was such a success, they started to kind of monkey with it and put boards and girders and other things up in between the sprinkler system and the actual material that was burning. And what they found was when they put that stuff up there, it actually worked better. So I'm not sure, I don't know that they're going to put debris and everything above these racks, but when they did try to defile the system, it actually improved the performance. So that's what they have now in lieu of the intermissent paint and the encasement to try and, I mean, $10 million, you think, well, that's Amazon, but $10 million is still $10 million, you know, on the front end. And hopefully this, I don't know if y'all know much about the Jeff Bezos. Have you ever seen his desk? Y'all know the story behind his desk?
Was it like the size of
No. It's actually, I don't want to spoil it for you, but Google it sometime, Jeff Bezos' desk, and take a look at it. And every administrator, every executive has the same exact desk as the CEO. And so I'm hoping, once you take a look at it, you'll understand what I'm saying. I'm hoping that the $10 million will go into buying him a better desk.
I got you.
But you Google it and take a look at it. It's pretty impressive. But when Jessica and I were walking through the administrative part of that, there was a desk just like the CEO's in every office there. And I mean, that was across the board from the executives all the way down to the department administrators. Am I telling that right, Jessica?
It was very modest.
Yes.
Also, back to your fire suppression, Jamie, was there anything that burned over 10 seconds before it was out?
No.
I don't recall. I mean, it was like crazy, the suppression system. And
yes.
Also they have a secondary containment water, like a water tower, in case something happened that the main fire line that serves the building goes out. They actually have a secondary supply tower that would supply, because they just can't risk losing that much product.
That is correct. If y'all saw the fire that we had at SEVA that day, you'll see that, you know, that one was a perfect storm. It was half of a warehouse with product and everything still on the rack, and it was downwind of the fire source and downwind of the flames and everything. So what actually put that fire out at SEVA was the back wall, and we ran out of fuel. It was a 24-mile-an-hour sustained wind, and it broke up our fire streams almost immediately out of the nozzles. But you're correct. They did have that in. It was some very fascinating numbers at how quickly that was done. They came to us with, they're going to have an on-site storage, water storage tank, with the ability to add a second if the studies through West Wilson Utility District were not sufficient enough. But everybody knows, Freddie runs a really good tight ship at West Wilson Utility District. The numbers that he supplied to them were well above what their expectations were. So we're only going to need one fire water tank rather than two. They'll be able to pull from that fire water tank first and then pull from the municipal sources thereafter. And what that does is that gives me a chance to get on the scene, make an assessment, and then call West Wilson Utility District and tell them you are about to see a huge surge in water usage for this facility, and they can manipulate their pump system and their supply system to adjust to that.
Fantastic. That's pretty. I hope everybody else finds that interesting as well. But
hey, Mark.
Yeah, hang on. Yeah.
Hey, one of the things also that they came in first to Jamie with was related not necessarily to the product, but because the building itself is so large, they were having trouble having appropriate egress for the employees. But really, unless you're a specialty robotics person, you're not going in the middle of that, which would put you further away from the egress. So they had to get Jamie comfortable with the fact that that person that goes out on the floor, who is like in a robotic, like a, I don't have the right words, but like a digital vest. So they know exactly where he is. The whole place is blocked off. So none of the robots are going to run him over. Mm-hmm. But they also, in case of an emergency, know where that employee is on the floor. He's like a digital dot on the floor. Mm-hmm. But the reason that they had to get approval for that high-end suppression system that would extinguish a fire within seconds, for them, of course, it's their product, but it's also their employee, because the egresses were further away than the typical building code allows. Is that correct, Jamie?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. The distance and the way that they operate, there's a perimeter on each one of those floors. There'll be a perimeter, and it's the width of a hallway, basically a really wide hallway. Up to that point, from there to the inside of the building, there's a chain link fence, a triple link that goes all the way up. And there are only about 3 or 4 individuals per shift that are allowed to go inside that perimeter. Say if a box fell and it was impeding the progress of one of the robots. The robots look like a little, about a 1 square foot by 4 inches deep box. And they go around and get whatever it is that they need. But it's still, you're putting, humans inside with robotics, and they call it a Moses coat, if I remember right.
That's right.
Moses code. It basically low jacks the individual. It GPSs where they are. One of the things that I added to that was a what we call a PASS system. It's a personal alert safety system. They're now integrated into our air packs, but they used to be little modules that we would clip onto our air packs. And when we turned them on, if we were still for 15 seconds, they would alert with a very high pitch. You didn't want it too close to your head. It's very loud. And so I asked them if they would integrate into that Moses garment a PASS system, and they said that they would. That way, it's all videoed and everything, and that's great. But in the event of an emergency, we might need to make fast access to this person. And if we know about where we're going, we can find exactly where we need to be by the sound of that personal alert safety system. So if somebody is, say they're behind they're right in an aisleway that's not covered by a camera, we can find them knowing where they are on what floor, at what rack and row, and then be able to ascertain their exact location by the sound of the personal alert safety system.
If all goes well, you'll get your practice here shortly with getting 400,000 square feet on Green Hill High School, and a year from now you can do 10 times that with nearly 4 million square feet.
I'm getting ready to order new shoes for the upcoming year.
That's
So we
right.
got our, that part of the budget was approved. I'm ready to, I need some new shoes.
Hey, real quick on an entirely different subject, but still just as heartwarming. I forget what day it was, towards the end of last week, perhaps over the weekend. Not sure if the firefighters, police, emergency services in general for Mount Juliet, I believe pulled someone out of floodwater and presented
Yeah.
a real tragedy.
Yes, they had over in Tuscan Gardens, over the back there, part of Cedar Creek had been inundated with a very, we had a flash flood storm that came up, and kids are doing the same thing that I did some years ago. When Cedar Creek would rise up, even when the ditch would rise up, we'd go out there and play in it. Of course, you'd get yelled at afterwards. That's that whole permission versus forgiveness thing. But no, a little girl, 14-year-old girl, was babysitting a couple of little boys, and they wanted to go see the creek. Well, she let them go out there and see the creek, was telling them not to get too close. Well, the 11-year-old got too close and fell in. She did not hesitate. She jumped in and brought him back out to the bank. But unfortunately, in doing that, in making that transition, she pushed herself out farther into the rushing water. And she floated downstream, was able to catch a branch, hold on to that for a little while, and then was blown down. As the water increased, she was blown down to a second branch. And so members, of course, the call went out. And this is one of those things. We do have a swiftwater rescue team, and it is utilized for long-term issues. If you've got some folks that are stranded on a porch or in a safe way that can buy time for a team to rally and get their gear involved, this wasn't that. This was a 14-year-old girl holding onto a branch, and she did not have but minutes. And so the Mount Juliet, the call went out to Mount Juliet Police and Fire. Police officers responded. Fire officers from here, I believe it's B shift. I want to say no. Yes, B shift. Lieutenant Hassler and his crew from the city center responded. Everybody got onto the scene. The officer that made initial entry was Robert Kimbrough, a former firefighter. Just saying, he sold his soul to the blue line, but he got it bit. He got his bringing up as a firefighter down in Laverne. But yeah, they have Tyler and James and Mike and all of the guys in administration at police at Mount Juliet Police Department have thought of every contingency that they can think of. And they do carry water rescue throw ropes. They do have flotation devices. So Robert Kimbrough, he got on the scene. He had the knowledge. He took control of the situation. As he was making entry into the water, our fire department showed up. He was able to get access to the little girl, get her back up on shore, and then my guys were able to facilitate that, getting her on up onto the bank and then getting Robert out of the water. So it was, there were 4 officers and 3 firefighters that made a world of difference in that rescue. It was, that one falls into the category of snatch and grab. And that's what they were able to do successfully. We do have plans, don't tell anybody, but we do have plans to recognize that little girl with a city life-saving award, because that is, it's when I need to turn my screen off. That
was a close call.
Yes. And, the greatest of these is love, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, thanks to everybody that was involved in that. Marla, does anybody have any questions? Jamie, this has been a pretty doggone entertaining and informative 36 minutes. Anybody got any?
I'm going right up to cheeseburger.
Hey. Speaking of that, buddy.
Mark.
Woo! There you go.
Mark.
That's a combo meal, buddy. Today.
That'll be the end of me for the day.
Yes, Miss.
Yes, ma'am.
We just got notice Charlie Daniels just died.
just now. Boy,
Thought y'all wanted to.
we need
Hey,
him and Patriots like that more now than ever, I think. So that'll be a huge loss.
Mhm. Oh,
Hey.
real
hey,
quick.
Mark, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes. I don't
Hey,
know
I was
who-
on, Miss Phyllis is exactly right. We found out this morning, and we're going to be escorting his body through town, hopefully sometime this evening around 2 o'clock, from the hospital back to the funeral home, Sellers. So, Miss Phyllis, thanks for putting that out there.
Mhm.
We were going, so we're hoping people can line both sides of Mount Juliet Road. A special tribute
Hey,
to Mr. Charlie.
Kenny, did you say that's at 2 o'clock?
Well, I think that was early. It may change. That was the time said earlier, so it could be later than that.
Was
Okay,
it
'cause
Mixel or something, or not? I mean, not Mixel, but so that we'll know.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. As soon as we find out the exact time, I've been communicating with Judd this morning, and
Okay.
I already talked to Chief Luffman and I talked to the police department. But now that it's out there, we're going to say something. Us hadn't made it public, but yeah, we're going to do it up real nice. So once we find out the time, we'll put something out on Atlas or Nixle or
Mhm.
which
if we get there.
hospital is it coming from?
I believe it's Summit.
And Summit is what this is.
We'll help you spread the word. So kind of hate to end on a somber
Sorry.
note, but no.
Well,
I
Mark,
think,
let me
Bill just
Thanks
called.
pick it up. Back in the day when I was a little boy over in Lakeview, Charlie lived down behind Lakeview Elementary School. And his son and I went to school together, and we ended up playing football together. He was a year my junior. So getting chased off that tour bus was regular. I know that Charlie Daniels can hit some of the same notes that my mother and now my wife can when I get sideways with them. But I'll show you this. If anybody remembers back in the day, he used to have the volunteer jam.
Yeah.
This is from 1982. Let me see if I can do this. Look at that cowboy right there. Yeah, and that's real hair coming out from under that hat.
That is one fine looking man right there.
I didn't want to make a comment about the hair. I'm glad you did.
But no, Charlie was, his wife Hazel and my mother, they were on the same bowling team. I mean, it's quite a loss. But
We're going to miss him.
I know he's picking that fiddle this morning for a Supreme audience. And I'm not so sure he needs to lead with The Devil Went Down to Georgia, but I'm sure he'll pick, good old Southern boy, something to start off with this morning for the angelic choir that he's playing for now. But he is certainly a great man, a great patriot, and he did certainly love the city of Mount Juliet.
He mentioned that just about anywhere in the world that he traveled. So
Yep.
quite an
Mhm.
ambassador for us. We'll look forward to that Nixle and help spread the word. Keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. We will miss him, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more about it here in the next couple of hours. But to everybody that joined in today, I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to do this every Monday. We do it a Wednesday morning with a little bit of a county flavor to it. Monday, Mount Juliet Monday, and Wilson County Wednesday. So hope Candy drives careful, or Robert at least. He's at 4 o'clock in the morning or something crazy like that. You guys have a safe trip back. Everybody,
Thank you, Mark.
Y'all coming in. Jim, good to see you.
Appreciate you guys and your interest and support. Thank you so very much.
All right. Blessings to
Thank
everybody.
you, Jamie.
Bye-bye.